Yeah, we got engaged in March. We got married in October. And that was 7 years ago that we got married. It'll be 7 years in October. So, but we had quite a few people tell us when we got married that they were very concerned when we got married, because I had been in church my whole life. I grew up in church, and so I was a Christian and had been for a very long time, and he didn't grow up in church, and so there was some difference in our like spiritual levels, I guess. And so there's some people who expressed concern about that, and I think later on that kind of came into play a little bit, but like not to the degree that I think people thought it was going to.
Right. Like I wouldn't be able to like lead the household or that type of stuff. But
And then I guess from there, yeah, we were married. This was 2018. So we got married in 2014, and then in 2018, which all up to that point, I had been working on my degrees. So I was in school when we met, and so I had always been working towards being a teacher, and so getting my degrees and everything. And finally, I graduated, had my degrees all done, finished with school in 2018, and I started looking for my first teaching job, and that was a nightmare, and it was stressful on both of us.
yes.
Because there was a lot of anxiety, and so there was a lot of stress and everything, because it was crazy. And at the same time, we had been having issues with our previous church, and we went through a lot of worship leaders there, and so
Like
every
four
time
total before we were gone.
yeah, every time we turned over with another worship leader, it's almost like there was more, like different hurt just kept being stacked on top of each other. And we served like every Sunday without fail for 3 years, both of us. And both of us we were burnt out, we were done. And so we, after a long time of talking about it, praying about it, not everything, we just finally felt like it was time for us to leave, which was hard because that was the church that we had been in. I mean, the pastor there, the first pastor there married us. So that's the church that we had been in our whole married life up to that point. So we didn't know what to do. Yeah. So that happened. We finally decided to leave, and we left. We left that church the same time I had just graduated and was looking for a job. So there was a lot of stress. There was a lot of issues already there.
I had just started.
And then not long after that, he had just started a new job, and so there was a lot going on. And looking back on it, I honestly think that when we left the church, because there was a lot of hurt and stuff there that we didn't deal with, it left the door open, and that allowed Satan to come in and start wreaking havoc, like he likes to do, and
We started fighting.
we started fighting a
over
lot.
stupid things.
And
Like the little things, criticizing each other for no reasons, and then
because we were both still dealing with a lot of hurt that we didn't deal with, and we, it started seeping into our marriage, and like you said, we started fighting about dumb stuff, and then he started his new job, and at the time he worked with primarily females.
yeah, Apex, for at least for the group, didn't have a whole lot of men in the teams. And granted, I had a couple on my team, but not only that, they were all single. They were all my age, and they were all single. And so they were all like, hey, come out with us here. Hey, come out with us here. Hey, come out with us there. And
we were going to this bar to play pool.
Yeah.
I
I played pool at work, so yeah, I started doing that.
So then he wanted to go, and because he was in a new environment, he wanted to meet his, coworkers and make friends, which I understood. But at the same time, I was like, okay, but you're going out with all these single people. You're not single.
Yeah.
So I have a problem with this. Like, you're going out with a whole bunch of single people, females included in that, and I'm not cool with this. And my grandfather was an alcoholic, and so because he was an alcoholic and drank himself to death, and I saw the effects that had on not only my mom but my whole family. I've had and still have zero interest in alcohol, never because
Never touched it.
yeah, never touched it. So so anytime he was like, yeah, they want to go to this bar and just play pool, automatically I was like, nope. No, not okay. Just because of my personal history, which he knew all about. He knew all about that, and he knew that I didn't like it.
I was just being a turd because I wanted, like, we were both hurting, and I was in a new environment. I was wanting to fit in a little more, which that's not what we're here to do. But at the same time, like, it's still our nature to try to do anyway. And anytime I brought up anything work related, it always seemed to cause tension. And so I had these feelings that she wasn't appreciative of the job I had, and the fact that I was taking care of the family and getting a better job with the best benefits we've ever had, with just all the way around. It was the first time I've ever had a job that was just Monday through Friday, full insurance benefits, 401k, like all of these great things. Getting off with the exception of like an hour drive to work, back and forth. That was one of the things that was kind of a drawback, but at the same time I didn't mind just the drive. It was a small thing to do. And so anytime we had any talks about it, it always felt like I was being attacked just for having the job that I had. So, and I should have asked more questions and tried to understand where she was coming from when she was telling me these things. But at the same time, I wasn't in that right mindset of trying to understand where she was coming from. I just kept seeing it as an attack. And so that just kept building and building and building. And she was stressed trying to find a job. I was stressed because she wasn't happy with my job, but not that she wasn't happy with my job. She just wasn't happy with the circumstances and the different events that I was trying to make transpire, because she could tell that this was not a road that I needed to go down, and that it was going to be bad and or could have consequences that neither one of us would want. And so she was trying to be protective, but I was only seeing it as an attack every time. And so I felt like I couldn't tell her anything. Then she, on the other hand,
so we started shutting down.
Yeah, I stopped telling her anything about work. And so then she felt like I was leaving her out of that part of my life. And so that,
She was.
yeah I mean,
But
because I felt like I couldn't talk to you about it. It's just
a lot of I had a lot of insecurities at that time too, because like I said, he was working with mostly females. So when he would come home, he'd say all these, oh yeah, I did this fun thing with what's her name, and then I did this fun thing with what's her name, and I'm going, no, no, not okay. None of this is okay. So like I started being really insecure, which I was already insecure because I was having a hard time finding a job. And so there was already a lot, and with all the hurt that we had already experienced with the church and everything, there was a lot. I was already basically raw at that point, emotionally raw, and then this on top of it, I was just like, okay, no more. I can't take any more.
And I felt like she didn't trust me, because just by me trying to tell her about my day, because of the insecurities and stuff, it was automatically like this isn't a good thing. And so I was like, but you trust me though, right? Like, you know that I wouldn't do that. But
and I was always like, yes, I trust you. It's the people I don't trust. Like,
right.
I can trust you, but I can also not trust everybody around you.
And I just didn't see that. I just kept taking it, the negatively, as in like, well, you just don't trust me, so And that came to a head.
Yeah. So we had been fighting a lot, and then.
Yeah, we were hardly talking to each other at home.
Things got pretty bad.
Yeah.
And then he decided that he was going to move. He was going to stay with his parents for a little bit until he figured out what was going to happen. So we separated. And that was devastating.
Yeah, it was rough.
And I didn't know what to do. So the only thing I knew to do was to reach out to people I knew who would pray. And so I reached out. I knew Julian and Anita would pray because they've known both of us our whole lives. And so I texted, I think, Anita, and I was like, hey, this is what's going on. We need help. We need prayer. Like, there were several other people. I think the pastor that married us, I reached out to his wife, and she was praying for us too. And so several, women leaders that I knew I could depend on, I reached out to and had them praying. And then I think Julian and Anita were like, you need to talk to our pastors. And so I was like, nope, don't want to do that. And
yeah, and because like I think Julian reached out to me as well, and the pastor that married us as well. They had all like either sent messages or tried to call. I didn't want to hear from anybody. Like I didn't want anything. I wanted to figure it out on my own.
he was very angry.
And yeah, I was upset with everything.
He had a lot of anger going on that time.
Yeah. Heck, I didn't even want to talk to my parents about it. Like, I didn't want to talk to anybody about anything.
Yeah, so then finally I was like, okay. And I had gone with my parents, because my parents were going to Neon at the time. And my mom kept going, come to church with us, come to church with us. Because we had, basically when we left the church, we had stopped going to church.
Yeah, and we kind of tried to look at churches, but just everything with a new job and with her searching for a job,
We just
applying.
kept putting it on the back burner.
And so there was a nice little gap
There was a couple
where,
months that
where
we weren't in church.
didn't go to church at all, and that's when our biggest...
That's
we-
when our marriage went. My mother is a saint, but she is one of those people that, I don't know if there's any other people like this, but she reads a marriage book every year just because she's like, marriage is important and it's work, and I want to make sure that my marriage stays, where it should be. So she reads a marriage book every year. So naturally she has a lot of them, and when we started going through this, she just brought over a stack of books and was like, have at it. And so I ended up reading one of those, and it was about, separation and healing from that. It was a Christian book about all of that, and, here's what you need to be doing, and realizing that it's not, like, you're not fighting with your spouse. It's a spiritual battle that's going on that you don't see. And so that ended up helping a lot, which I'll go more into that. But yeah, my mom ended up dragging me to church. And I went and I was like, fine, I'll talk to the pastors. So Julian was like, awesome, here's their number. And he's like, all I have is Eric's number. I don't have Crystal's number at the time. And so he gave me Eric's number, and I was like, well, this is awkward, but explain the whole situation. And then Eric was like, you need to talk to my wife. Here's her number. And so then I got in touch with Crystal, and then we ended up going, we were supposed to have lunch or something, and the place was closed, and so we ended up going to Cherry Park, and we sat in the park and talked and sobbed, and it was interesting because, like, the church that we were at previously, we didn't have, I love the pastor's wife there and everything, but I never had that relationship with her. And like, Crystal didn't even know me from anybody. Nobody. She had never met me before, and yet she was like, can I pray with you? And she just hugged me and prayed with me, and we were both sitting there crying and, going over it. And she was like, I remember, she probably doesn't remember saying this, but she told me, she's like, your marriage isn't done. She's like, God's not done with you yet. And I was like, okay, well, then he's going to have to do something, because...
Somebody tell my husband, because he hadn't heard it yet.
I was like, because we're not seeing eye to eye here. And so she just told me, like, keep praying. Just, like, God's got this. Just keep praying. And so I did. And the funny thing is, he probably doesn't even know this, because I don't think I've even told him. During all that time, I was reading that book that my mom gave me, and one of the things it said is, it's talking about the spiritual battle, and it says, like, that you have to fight. It's a fight, but it's not your fight. It's God's fight. And the way that, like, one of the really important ways that God moves on our behalf, sometimes it's through worship. I'm a worship leader, so I was like, I got this. So at that point, I had gotten my job, and I had a little bit of a commute, not much, but every day on my commute, I was playing worship music, and I was playing, like, This Is How I Fight My Battles, and I was playing lots of Hillsong. Hillsong was a big part of that, but Not Today by Hillsong. It just says, the devil no, not today. And then there was a whole bunch of songs, but I was playing those, and I was, like, just straight up declaring them. And as I was listening to those, I was praying also. I was like, and I remember not just praying like, okay, God, if it's your will, fix this. It was war. And I was saying, no, like, I'm taking back my marriage. He can't have it. he can't. So, like, I was declaring that. All the while, he's still over there mad and knows none of this is going on. But every day, to and from work, and even sometimes when I was at home, every time that I would start to get angry or I'd start to feel hurt or anything like that, I would just crank up the worship music and I'd be like, not today. And I'd start worshiping or I'd start declaring it. And then I noticed as I started doing that, my prayers got more and more bold to the point where I started like straight up, this is going to sound probably overly Christian to some people, but I started rebuking Satan. I was like, no, you can't have my marriage. You can't do this. Like, you have no authority here. And so I started getting boldness in that. And all the while, we hadn't been talking at all. Like, we had very minimal, if any, communication. Mm-hmm. It was only about specifics like, did you pay the electric? Did you? Because we still had, one account and we were still paying all of the bills out of there and everything. So the only conversations we had were about bills. Pretty much it. We didn't have any kids at the time. So that happened. I think we officially separated, I think it was in July, right? Because it was right before I got my job.
Mm-hmm. Right before the school year started.
Yeah, so we officially separated, like, I think at the end of July.
Right before that, too, you had messaged me, like, something.
I sent him an email.
Yeah. Hey, you sent me an email. Yeah. Like, we had text messages and I mean, but yeah, you sent me, it was a heartfelt email.
I needed to just sit down and type it out. And you can't do that with a text message. It would have been like 7 pages long from
That's
a text
true.
message.
It was a very lengthy email anyway. I
tend to be I'm an English teacher at heart, so words are just the way I do things.
Yeah. But I'd read the email and I was in the kitchen at my parents' house when I got the email, and I just sat there and just kind of started crying. And my mom and dad were like, "Hey, what's up with you?" And I was like, "Oh, it's nothing. I'm just gonna
Allergies.
go. Yeah, I'm gonna go play some video games." And so then I went in my room and just kind of like let all the emotions finally like hit me, because I was just angry about everything, and it sucked to be that way all the time, and then also putting on a face at work, just like, I'm great, nothing's going on. My life isn't turned upside down right now, and she sent that email. I cried quite a bit that night. Prayed a lot,
which was probably the first time
in a while.
A couple
because
months.
I didn't want to talk to anybody, especially not God, because I didn't know how we had gotten to the point we were at.
He told me, he goes, I didn't want to pray because I knew that God would rebuke me. He goes, so I knew God would be like, you're being prideful and stupid and you need to get over this and get back home.
Yep, definitely did. And yeah, I cried, and I probably waited at least an hour or two, just letting myself just kind of let the emotions go before I like finally reached out. I'm like, all right, Lord, do what you got to do, because I know I've been bad, and I need to fix this. I don't know how. You're the only one that can fix this. Just tell me what I need to do. And I didn't really hear anything as far as what I should do, but deep down I was like, I have to reach out to her. She went through all this trouble to just say everything that she had been going through and everything that was on her heart, and just letting me know that she wasn't done fighting for us. And I was like, well, I have to reach out to her, and we have to talk about this, even if it hurts, and even if it doesn't end the way either of us want it to end. We still have to have that talk, and give ourselves an opportunity to go forward.
Because literally, we were at a point where we were ready to call it quits. Both of us had walked away from church. We weren't in church. We were both very angry at each other and with God, because of everything that had happened at our previous church and all the hurt that accumulated there. So we were probably that was the lowest part either one of us had ever gone through, I think.
Yeah.
And then God completely flipped it, and in 3 months, God completely flipped it. We're back together. We have the silliest, goofiest smartest little girl ever. And I mean, we're both serving faithfully. We're both happy, and our marriage is, I think,
Better than it's ever
stronger
been.
than it's ever been. So that's pretty much to sum it up. Like, God's the only thing. He's the only one that can do that. Nothing else. Nothing I could have done. Nothing he could have done. Because we both tried for months before we actually split. We both tried. We tried to work it out. We tried to stop fighting. We tried to, in our own power, we tried to do it, and nothing worked. It just made it worse, and things just kept getting worse and worse. And then we separated, and finally I was like, if I don't get over myself and go to God, like, this is gonna be done. We're gonna end up divorced, because that's where it was headed. And I mean, literally, He's the only one that could have done it. That could have fixed it, and he did.
Yeah.
So now here we are. I think from the point when we started coming up until now, I know for both of us, there's been a lot of healing, both not only in our marriage, but in our own personal relationships with God. Like, there's just been a lot of healing that's taken place. And I think that's a testament to Neon Life, is that it's a place where you can go and you can heal. No matter how jacked up you may feel you are,
Yeah.
or
what hurts you might come in with.
yeah, it's a place that I know we both have experienced a lot of healing. And I think part of that is, and this is going to sound so cliche, but part of that is through the groups, is through forming those relationships like Eric talks about all the time. And trust me, I was one of the ones who was like, nope, not going to a group. Nope, not going to Growth Track. I fought it all the way, but then when I finally, because meeting or going and talking to people is not in my strong suit. It's not my comfort zone at all. I'm a very much introvert, keep to yourself. I'd rather read a book than talk to people. So going to my first group was very much out of my comfort zone, but I ended up meeting a lot of people there, and then being on the worship team. We're together all the time, so it's basically like another family. And we're always joking in text threads and stuff, so it's it's building those relationships. But even now at Neon, like just a couple months ago, I was just going through some stuff postpartum and struggling, and I didn't even have to say anything, but Brenda De La Cruz was like, you're going through something, and just hugged me and was like, come on, let's talk through it. So I mean, there's people like that all over.
Yeah, I mean, we serve a huge God, and I mean, he saved us on our own, at our own time, separately, and then, saved our marriage as well. I mean, saved our relationships, and he just does a whole lot of saving, but then also, cultivating and encouraging and, telling us that we can do more than we think we can do. It's sad that there's people out there that don't know that there's
I don't get to experience.
that there's a God out there that just wants to know you and wants to love you and wants to be there for you.
And a cool thing is, you can film on this if you want, but since everything happened and we both got plugged in and got going, basically, God started doing things, not only in our marriage but in each one of us. We've actually started seeing some people from his family that weren't in church are now interested in church, now are going to church, your siblings. And
oh yeah. I don't think that I led the way. I'm not the head of my my parents' household or anything like that, but after I started going and getting more involved, my sister started going and getting more involved and getting plugged in. Now she goes to church full time. I said like it's a job. It's not a job, but like she goes,
Faithfully.
She faithfully goes to church. And even my brother, who's in Poland, in the military, yeah, he's in the army in Poland, and even he messaged me a couple months back. I'm like, hey man, what do you know about this God guy? And I was like, well,
Started asking
I don't know a
questions.
ton. You know, I'm not always going to be the best resource. There are plenty of other people that know more than I do, but I'll tell you what I know. And, you know, that it's a love like no other. And he's always there for you, you know, no matter what. And it's insane to be able to sit there and whether in joy or in hurt, and still either way he's going to love you, and he's still going to listen to you the same, you know, whether you're praising him for the things he's doing or asking for help in the things that you're doing. He's there, and it's just an awesome feeling to always have that. And it's been awesome to have, you know, my brother reach out as well.
So that's something cool. So not only did God restore our marriage and bring us back into the church and, you know, start healing each one of us personally, but then that started because the siblings started seeing the change that was happening, and they've known since we were together that we were going to church and everything. So I mean, it's never been a secret.
Yeah, so we're going on
We weren't
7
like,
years.
shh, don't tell them.
Yeah.
But, yeah, but they've seen the change, and so now they're like, hey, someone's different. What is it? So they're starting to get plugged in. So that's the whole neon part of Neon Life, is letting it shine. And it is. So it's cool.
Mm-hmm.